Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going straight to the heart of Medina, into a small, humble house where one family faced an unbelievable test of faith. We're talking about a story of serious hardship, incredible sacrifice, and a reward that came, literally, from the heavens.
So, let's start with this, a really powerful prayer from Bibi Fatima. What's amazing here is that she's not asking for the hardship to just go away. She's asking for the strength to get through it. And that right there, that sentiment, it perfectly sets the stage for the incredible test of devotion that's about to unfold.
All right, so our story is set in the home of the Prophet's daughter, Fatima, and her husband, Ali. This was a place that, wasn't defined by its possessions, but by the incredible faith that just filled every corner of it. So, one morning, the reality of their situation just hits them. It's stark. The family wakes up and there's just nothing. After a night of prayer, they realize their home is completely empty of food. I mean, not a single grain. The only thing they had was a little bit of water. And this right here really shows you the central paradox of their lives. You see, their home didn't have that shine of material wealth, not at all, but it was absolutely illuminated by the light of patience and gratitude. They had this immense spiritual richness, even while facing just extreme physical hardship.
So as you can imagine, their two young sons, Hassan and Hussein, they start to cry from hunger. And at that point, Ali knows he has to do something. So he heads out into the hot desert to find whatever work he can, absolutely determined to bring something back for his family.
And he does. He finds work in a date orchard. But after hours of just toiling under that scorching sun, his payment isn't in coin. Nope. It's the fruit of his labor, just a small handful of dates. And you know what? He accepts it with so much gratitude.
Okay, so just imagine the relief in that house as they're finally getting ready to eat. They're about to break this intense hunger. But then, at that exact moment, there's a knock at the door. Outside, there's an elderly man, so weak with hunger, pleading for food in God's name. He tells them he hasn't eaten in days.
Now, Ali, of course, is worried about his own hungry children. I mean, that's completely natural. But Fatima, her perspective is something else entirely. She doesn't see this as a loss. She sees it as this profound opportunity to gain a much, much greater spiritual reward.
So inspired by Fatima's words, they're united in this decision. And Ali, without hesitation, gives away their entire meal. The whole family, even the little kids, they all agree to prioritize this stranger's need over their own intense hunger. And so they go to sleep that night with only water.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the next day because this story just keeps building. The trial of their faith, it was far from over. In fact, the exact same thing was about to happen again, but this time the stakes were even higher.
So, after another long, hard day of work, Ali comes home. This time, he's got a small amount of flour. And for a moment, there's this feeling of hope in their little house as Fatima starts to bake. You can just imagine the smell of fresh bread filling the air. What a welcome promise of a real meal. And then, unbelievably, it happens again. Just as they're sitting down to eat, that knock comes. This time, it's another man, and he seems even more desperate. His clothes are tattered, his face is pale. He's been starving for 3 whole days. And once again, it's Fatima who really frames what's about to happen. She looks at the situation, acknowledges their own pain, of course, but she reminds them of their true purpose. It's spiritual, not material. The goal, she says, is to earn God's pleasure.
And they do it again. It's just remarkable. Ali actually asks his young sons if they can endure this, and they agree. I mean, they show a faith that just perfectly mirrors their parents. So, for a second night in a row, the entire family gives away their only food and survives on nothing but water.
Okay, so 2 full days of hunger, 2 incredible acts of selflessness. Their patience and their faith have been tested to the absolute limit. And now? Now it was all about to be answered in the most miraculous way you can imagine.
So you have to ask yourself, right? What happens when someone shows this kind of extraordinary faith? When you reach the absolute human limits of patience and generosity, what happens next?
Well, their actions did not go unnoticed. Up in the heavens, their unwavering patience and charity were seen, and it prompted a direct, divine response.
Then comes a third knock on the door, but this time it's different. When Ali opens it, he sees this luminous figure holding a dish of the most fragrant, heavenly food. The figure tells him he is Jibrail, a messenger from God, sent specifically with a reward for their incredible charity.
Now this whole event, it wasn't just some private miracle for one family to keep to themselves. No, it became this incredibly powerful, public lesson for the whole community, and it's one that has echoed down through the generations.
You can imagine, word spread like wildfire through Medina. Food from paradise has arrived at Fatima's house. This incredible news completely transformed how people looked at hardship. It wasn't just a nice story anymore. It was living proof of the rewards of patience and charity.
So what does this story really leave us with? Well, it's kind of like a timeless four-step guide. First, you have sabr, which is patience in hardship. Then shukr, being grateful even when you have very little. Third, selfless generosity, prioritizing others. And fourth, this unwavering faith that God's reward is way bigger than any worldly comfort.
And this wasn't just a local legend. The Prophet himself confirmed how significant this whole event was. He explained that this wasn't just a one-off thing, but a real-life example of a universal principle, that for people who are patient through their trials, God has rewards that our minds can't even begin to comprehend.
So in the end, this story shows us that their patience resulted in a literal divine reward, which kind of leaves us with a big question to think about, right? In our own lives, when we face our own trials with patience, what's the real wealth that we're accumulating? Maybe it's something we can't even see.